You all know that I don't wear eyeshadow often, but I am buying that Shane Dawson and Jeffree Star palette, whether my wallet likes it or not. Hi everyone, my name is Holly, and in today's video, I have come up with an original book tag for you called the Conspiracy Book Tag, which is obviously very heavily inspired by the Shane and Jeffree makeup collection because I am a YouTuber. I can't not jump on this hype train. This book tag consists of 6 prompts that all have to do with conspiracy and matching books that best go along with them. So let's start with number 1, which is conspiracy. Name a book with a plot twist that you didn't see coming. I am going to go with A Little Hatred by Joe Abercrombie. This book is perfect for this prompt because the ending ruined me. I'm still trying to figure out the why and the how and the why, and it's so rude that the sequel isn't coming out until next September. This is an adult epic fantasy, and it's the first book in a new trilogy that takes place within the First Law universe, so technically it's book 8. Read those other 7 books first, or you're going to miss out on 7 books worth of character development. This book sets itself apart from the rest because it takes place during the industrial age. Things are changing, the common people are losing their jobs to machines, and they're beginning to group up and riot for fair wages and better working conditions. In fact, there is a group in here called the Breakers where they literally just go to factories and break everything. This addition to the First Law universe could not have been more perfect. It has come full circle. We are actually following a lot of the children of the main characters in the original trilogy, and there were just multiple plot twists in here that totally caught me off guard. Number 2, Illuminati. Name a book with a secret organization. I cannot help but choose The Final Empire, the first book in the Mistborn series by Brandon Sanderson. I'll actually be reviewing this book officially in my wrap-up that will be going up tomorrow. Yes, this was my very first Brandon Sanderson book, and that could be a whole conspiracy on its own. This is yet another adult epic fantasy. If you're new here, you're going to see a theme very quickly. This is a story about a revolution. It follows a group of characters who are driven to take down the Lord Ruler, who is very sadistic and a very cruel man, and he has divided most of the nation into slaves versus nobility. There really is no in between. So these characters are having to stay hidden while trying to build an army from scratch and train them, and also trying to shatter the economy, and this all has to stay secret. This book has everything: action, suspense, light romance, and best of all, masterful world building. Even the magic system in here is fascinating. It's all about ingesting metals, which gives certain characters magical abilities. Again, I'm trying not to say too much because I'll be talking more about this tomorrow, but if you are planning on reading this but you're too intimidated by its length because it is like 530 pages, just pick it up and read it because these pages fly by so quickly. It did it for me at least. Number 3, Flat Earth. Show us your thinnest book. So I actually have a trio here, and I'm gonna have to check out the number of pages. This is a fantasy series by Mike Cole. It's one of my all-time favorites, and overall they are the shortest books that I own. But which one is the thinnest? Oh, okay, that makes sense. So the first one is actually my thinnest and the shortest book, being just over 200 pages. This is a very emotionally charged, grimdark fantasy that packs one heck of a punch in such a short amount of time. It follows a young girl named Heloise who lives in this world where wizards are hunted down by this religious order, and she ends up rising up to try and defeat them. And throughout the story, she is having to find herself, so this is an LGBTQ+ story. And there's also steampunk elements in this, which I feel like really enhances the flavor. You are taken on a wild ride with Heloise in the medieval village that she comes from. For me personally, there was never a dull moment within this book. Number 4, Simulation. Name a book that takes place in a world outside of reality. So for this one, I have to go with One Word Kill by Mark Lawrence. This is a fantasy that is pitched as Ready Player One meets Stranger Things, and I can definitely see that, especially since it takes place in 1986 and also in London, and it follows a group of teenagers who spend their time playing D&D, and in the case of our protagonist, whose name is Nick, who is battling cancer. Well, one day when the new girl in town ends up joining their group, reality becomes even weirder than the fantasy world that they play in their weekly games. A strange, yet familiar, man is following Nick, and he has powers that shouldn't exist, and it leaves Nick having to race against time to unravel this mystery. This book was interesting because it deals with time travel and quantum physics. Overall, I liked it. It wasn't the best book that I ever read. It has some hiccups when it comes to the plot twist, and I really wish that the author had elaborated more on the mystery and what was happening. I feel like it needed more oomph, if that makes sense, but it has a nice plot, a humorous writing style, and that British humor that just adds a lot of charm. Number 5, Chemtrails. Name a book that took flight from page 1. See what I did there? So for this prompt, I am going with Queen of the Conquered by Kaysen Calendar. This is an extremely diverse Caribbean-inspired fantasy that actually releases on November 12th, and I'm very grateful to have read an early copy of it because I read it at the perfect time when I was feeling a little slumpy, and it really kickstarted my reading. And honestly, I've been reading nonstop ever since, and it definitely helps that I was hooked from chapter 1. It begins with a pretty heartbreaking scene of a flashback of our main character cowering in her bedroom while she watches white colonizers bombard onto her island and massacre her entire family. And then begins chapter 2. It's been years later, and she's actually the leader of her house through inheritance, and she vows to get revenge. The magic system in here is also very interesting. Our main character is able to read minds, and she's able to manipulate anyone she wants and to get them to do whatever she wants. It's a very heartbreaking story, but it honestly rejuvenated my soul. It's great, so be sure to look out for this one. And the last prompt I have here is Fake Death. Name a book that made you question a character's death. Don't worry, this one is going to be extremely vague, and the book I picked has a ton of death in it anyways, so it works out. And that is Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter. This is an African-inspired fantasy that takes off with a bang and does not let go. This book has one of the best prologues I have ever read in a fantasy. I always expect my epic fantasies to be full of action, and this one totally delivers. There were times where I was actually scared to flip the page. We get political intrigue and epic battles and dragons and an island full of secrets. I definitely questioned a lot that happened in the story because it really put me in denial. Evan Winter has no qualms whatsoever killing off characters, and I love that. Especially since the characters, I feel like, is the strong suit of this book, and it hurt even worse when something bad happened to them. The story at heart is a tale of revenge, but it's also a tale of adversity, while our main character has to sacrifice so much. It's a brutal story that is highly compared to Game of Thrones and Gladiator, so if you are at all craving that kind of story, then I highly recommend picking this one up. Alrighty, so that was the conspiracy book tag. I really hope you guys enjoyed. Tell me down below some of the answers that you would choose for these prompts, or if you end up doing this book tag yourself, don't forget to tag me on Twitter or Instagram because I would love to watch it. Go ahead and give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed because it helps me out so much, and don't forget to subscribe. I upload videos every single week. Follow me on Instagram at HollyHeartsBooks and on Twitter at HollyNiece, and until we meet again, happy reading.